overly critical person, because I have been part of this system for more than 45 years. I came here to this city in 1972 with the application of Bangladesh's membership, a newly independent country, to working here. And I have represented my country, I have represented the United Nations, I work very closely with civil society, and I believe that the enthusiastic report that Iris mentioned about 16 countries example, UNDG telling us how life has been infused into SDGs. I should say these are 16 countries mentioned about MDGs progress 1 year later. We have forgotten about Millennium Development Goals. Now we have got our new toy, which is SDGs, and we are playing with it, we are energized about it. What happened to MDGs? Did we ever analyze what was the success, what was the failure, why we failed, why we not succeed? No. We have been given, UN is expert in giving you new toys. To humanity, really. I mean, it may sound a little bit sarcastic, but I am telling you, we move from toy to toy. We take over new agenda and then we move on. It is very important for us to see how we have learned the lessons of failure in MDGs and built that into SDGs. And it is not there. We talk about SDGs, we talk about many things which are focused on mostly on the industrialized world. We think we live here and we think in their way, and we forget that billions, 2/3 of world's forests live in the developing world. And I have to emphasize that point. Unless we as civil society, the UN and member states get that, what we get in the UN in the name of the interest of the developing countries is a lot of objection to many things, many good things, which are proposed by, again, I should say appropriately that industrialized countries bring out many good things. I mean, human rights, you mentioned human rights, always the developing countries see something there, some hidden agenda there. The human rights is one of the areas where the developing countries needs to focus. And I did when I was representing my country there. So the word future, Office of the Future at the UN.
Yeah.
What we are thinking about. I had the reason I got attracted to Ms. Hubbard's idea is that I had thought about in the year 2000, after serving as a Bangladesh ambassador for 5 years then, 4 years, I was thinking that one of the reasons for all these conflicts, all this lack of progress had been because we do not think proactively about what is going to happen. I mean, we didn't think that what is going to happen when MDG's 15-year finishes in 2015. Well, we thought of the new toy, but how to make the transition from MDGs to SDGs? So that is a very important point. And so I thought that thinking about the future, what are the challenges that humanity is going to face maybe 20 years later, 30 years later? If UN had thought about the climate change many years before, we would have been a better place. So we need an office to think ahead of the member states, think ahead of the global community, sit together, create a small unit in the Secretary General's office, let them think about what we are hearing about the challenges to be faced by humanity, not what we are doing about SDGs. SDGs have an office already, a coordinator for SDGs, David Nabarro. He is in charge of this. So he works with his team to see how the goals are being implemented, which office is doing what, and that kind of responsibility. So we cannot superimpose ourselves as the global monitor for SDGs. There is already in the UN, there is an office for SDGs. So we have to be credible by saying that we are not looking into next 15 years for SDGs, but we are looking beyond 15 years. What happens in 2030? There are futurists who look into issues of future. And let's see if SDG 1 does not make much progress like MDG 1. If SDG 5 for women does not make a, you saw the report which came out that really to have equality in all areas, it will need 180 years for men and women. This World Economic Forum came out with a report on the 26th of October. So this is the reality. We have to see, we cannot just fool ourselves by thinking that things are moving well. SDGs have women's empowerment as the main focus. But what happens if it does not work? And it does not work. That is why UN, which was created 71 years ago, is still talking about peaceful world. So this is what we need to know. That I believe that I found that as an ambassador representing one of the poorest countries of the world, I was thinking that if we had thought about this earlier, there was no thinking. And even, I will tell you, the Secretary General comes on board as Antonio is doing, Antonio Guterres, is thinking about big things. But when he takes over on 1st of January, he will be told, you will have to do this, you will have to do this, that member country you will have to visit there, there's a big conference there, there's a meeting in the UN of the senior management group, everything. His days and time, months and weeks will be just like that. I was talking, we were recognizing ambassadors here, whom we call vintage ambassadors, who are here for more than 10 years. And I was telling Ban Ki-moon, I am part, not of that group, but somewhere I was associated, I was invited with the chief. I was telling Ban Ki-moon that I think your 10 years went by just like that. And he said, yes, Ambassador Chaudhary, I didn't recognize how fast this went. So this happens to a leader of the UN. Anybody. But that leader has to have the capacity to say, no, I stay back on my agenda. I am not sort of moved around by whatever is happening around me. So SDGs will be there, member states will work on it, but we have to think of something more broader in its perception and concept, which will tell us that if we look into these problems and prepare ourselves for these things, the world will be a better place. So we talk about, I was thinking that we talk about, and Ms. Howard mentioned, this is the moment of history. We all accept it. We all get energized by thinking that I have a role, a small role in this moment of history. But does 193 member states think that way? No. They are on a daily basis working on resolutions, working on how to put in their national interest in a global context, and how to get a little pat on the back from my government. That is what we are all doing. Sometimes subverting global agenda for national agenda. And that is a reality we have to see. So I think that we should tailor our wording, and I say that we have to make this agenda. I'm saying these critical remarks, but all energized by this concept, this endeavor. We have to make it acceptable to the member states